Hey guys, before we get started, I need Matt to tell a story.
One day, there was a handsome boy named Rumi, and he said, I need a place to live. So he called up his friend Matt, and Matt said, my current roommate is a dildo, and he's crying and going back to his mommy. You could live in his room, but don't change the locks, because that's what he did, and I got in trouble from the landlord. The end.
Great story.
All right, now you go.
Well, the story I want to hear about is how you met Mr. T, because we've been throwing up those pictures on our social media, and people are like, wait, what? Matt met Mr. T. Not only did Matt meet Mr. T, Matt ate Mr. T cereal with Mr. T.
Yeah, I got to hang out with Mr. T. It was cool as shit. I'm a kindergarten teacher, and I teach my kids all sorts of awesome stuff like lightsaber techniques and Mr. T. And for the last couple of years, my kids have known Mr. T because I have a Mr. T talking keychain. I show them the video of a song he sings called, I'll say he sings it, called Treat Your Mother Right. And it's this terrible song with a great message, and my kids loved it. So for years, we've been watching that. And like one of my classroom rules is no jibba jabba. In the morning, every kid says, keep your hands and feet to yourself. Raise your hand if you want to speak. Follow teacher's directions the first time, and no jibba jabba. That is a rule that has been in place in room 3 for years. So they know his shit. And I reached out to him last year through his PR people and his agent and his manager and everyone I can get a hold of. Come to room 3. Room 3 wants to see you. We love you. We'll love to do a Zoom. We'd love to have you come to the class. I sent him video and pictures of the kids acting and talking like him. Like, you haven't really experienced life until you hear a 5-year-old girl wearing glasses, a 5-year-old white girl wearing glasses go, quit your jibba jabba. Don't give me no back talk, sucker.
I pity the fool.
So over the summer, his people got in touch with me and were like, yeah, he'd love to do it. He's just really busy right now, but let's touch place in the fall. And since the fall, we've been touching base. And finally he came and he spoke to the entire school. He gave autographed pictures to every person there, from cafeteria workers to custodial staff to teachers to kids. One of the TAs came out in Rocky Balboa trunks with gloves on, surprised him. He was cracking up. He was like the coolest, most gracious guy. I'm obviously trying to get him on this show now.
Spoiler alert, don't tell him, Rumi. Because if it doesn't happen, it's embarrassing. But if it does happen,
embarrassing for him. Why would he not want to be here?
I know, right? We have a secret handshake.
He would do the secret handshake for sure. He did the cereal. He was telling everyone that, like, not to listen to bullies, not to listen to, people trying to bring you down. And he was like, when I was in Rocky 3, everyone after, off our street be trying to start trouble. Mr. T, you ain't nothing. Mr. T, you ain't nothing. And he's like, I ain't nothing. I have my own doll. I have my own toys. I'm sitting here eating my own cereal. You're telling me I ain't nothing. So if you guys haven't seen the pictures that Rumi is talking about, I made my own Mr. C cereal, because my kids call me Mr. C, and it looks just like Mr. T's cereal from the 80s.
It's incredible. Yeah.
Our buddy Steve Prince, the Monster Matador creator, he drew this box and he did the fonts and everything. And I got to give like a special shout out to, and it's her birthday today, my friend Carly Sienna Sertic. She helped me produce the box. I got it printed up at Warner Brothers Studios, like their print shop printed me these beautiful cereal boxes. So when me and him were taking these pictures, he was cracking up. And I was like, hey, did you really eat your own cereal? He goes, you better believe it, brother. You better believe it, brother. And I love the idea of him just eating his own cereal. Like, what a weird world to live in if you're just eating a cereal that you're on the box for, right?
Isn't that incredible?
It was crazy. So it was like a wild time. I have a lot more pictures. We'll post more stuff, but it was definitely like a fun Matt experience.
That is Matt experience to the max, man. That is so amazing. Yeah, like you said, we put up some pics on social media, which you should follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Launchpad Pod. And on YouTube, you can see the Mr. C box. It's freaking awesome. And our hands and faces. Today, we're broing out, dude. It's a bro down.
Oh yeah,
it's a legendary. This is the broiest down of the broiest bro down ever. Because we're talking about R, which is.
I like that you sound like a troll seal.
yeah. We are talking about RRR, the Telugu language epic action drama film directed by SS Rajamouli, and I am going to butcher names all day today.
We're going to try our best, but
I mean, let's just apologize already. I'm sorry if we can't pronounce any of these names right, any of these languages right, any of these countries correctly. And if we are completely off base on some of our assumptions of what this movie's about or means. Hey, we're two white guys who watched an Indian film and thought it was dope. So let's talk about it. Get on with the show.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
All right. Welcome to Launchpad Podcast. I'm Aaron.
I'm Matt.
Matt, this one's been on our docket for a minute.
Yeah. My friend, Lauren Muir, she's a shitty movie. She used to work with Amanda, and then I stole her because she likes shitty movies, her and her husband, Nick.
Hell yeah, Nick.
When Lauren reaches out to me and it's like, hey, have you seen such and such? It's going to be good. Whenever, because sometimes it's shitty. And I thought this was a shitty movie because that's usually the genre she reaches out to me about. But she's like, no, this is a good one. I knew zero about it other than that she was hyping the ever-loving shit out of it. I knew it was an Indian movie. Other than that, I knew nothing, zero about it. And I was like, all right, if you say it's worth watching, it's going to be worth watching. And like for months, I waited because I needed to watch it with her because she was so hyped about it. I was like, I can't watch it without you. We had a couple near misses and then we finally watched it together. And holy shit, I don't remember seeing a movie this epic in a long time. Like, I couldn't even tell you what the last movie that hit me like this was.
And you told me immediately. I had seen a lot about this on social media. It was really hyped up and it was getting like Oscar nods and stuff. And I was like, looks weird, but I'm down, you know, I like to expand my horizons, watch cool stuff. So you're like, you have to, dude, you have to. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to sit down and watch it one of these mornings that I have off. And then I sit down and I look at it, the runtime, 3.5 hours long. What the fuck,
Rumi was not looking forward to that. And I watched it. Yeah, I rewatched it yesterday with Amanda.
I don't have 3.5 hours
she was not
for
looking
shit.
for it.
No, I don't have 3. What did she like it? What was her?
Yeah, she did like it. And not only did she like it, but there's arguably 2 points in the movie where you could take a break. And then pretty much right halfway through, there is a intermission section.
Yeah.
We didn't even do an intermission. We didn't even get up to have a bathroom break. We just powered through. And for Amanda, that's saying a lot because she usually doesn't have the attention span for one regular length feature. So for her to do a 3+ hour movie in one sitting, and I gave her an out. I was like, if you want to take a break, if you want to watch the other part tomorrow, we can. She was like, no, let's keep going. And she was into it.
I got through the whole thing in one sitting. This definitely reminds me of like Ben-Hur, Spartacus, like that level of
epic,
old school Hollywood epic. And like, it's amazing. And compared to like American action films, adventure films, epic films, like it's bright and hopeful while still being super violent and really like, I like there are certainly like superhero level of fantasy things happening in it. But at the same time, like it is pretty grounded, but it's bright and happy and there's music and dancing. Like that doesn't happen in Avengers. Avengers is like jokes, motherfucker. And you're like, okay, all right, cool. Thanks. Like that's a vibe. This is like nothing you've ever seen, but still has that level of action packed, crazy stuff happening. The craziest piggyback ride you've ever seen in your life.
And I think that's part of the cultural difference of the filmmaking, right? Like,
sure.
I feel like you could say that Western film, American film is going for a genre. When you make a movie, you're trying to pigeonhole it into horror, suspense, comedy, romance, action, kids, you're trying to make a specific thing. I don't know much about Indian film, but I know the ones that I have seen don't seem to just be one thing. And this is a great example because, like you said, you could certainly call this an action film. You could certainly call it a drama. You could certainly say it had musical aspects. I don't know if you'd call it a musical outright. There was some comedy. There was some romance. It had a lot of these things in it. So that, like, Rumi and I often say, if we had a blockbuster, where would you put this movie?
Foreign
I don't know.
film.
Like, epic is probably the one best term I could think of for this, because it truly does. And it doesn't feel jarring to go from musical to action, from action to a little bit of romance. There's one, there's a little bit of comedy in one specific situation. And it doesn't really happen before or after that one part, but it doesn't feel misplaced. It's just all these different things. And it's a really, I think, well-made movie. It's produced well. It's acted well. It's shot well. Some of the CG looks very CG. Some of the CG is passable, but it doesn't matter. It's just so fun.
Let me speak on that. So this movie, like, overpowered their CGI budget. They put tons of money into CGI for this movie. There are tons and tons of really.
This was the most expensive Indian movie ever made. I think it was $72 million US dollars, and it's the most expensive movie that's ever made in that entire country.
And the VFX is a little all over the map. But here's what I'll say about that. Us in America, idiots on the internet, love to go, hey, I know how you did the trick, so the trick's bad. When at the end of the day, it's like, it's not a trick. Nobody was trying to trick you that he was being attacked by a tiger.
By a real tiger.
Yeah. There are things that pass and things that don't. There is bad CGI, and there is bad CGI in this movie. I don't think it. I think they could have spent a few more weeks on it to be to a level where it's telling the story and not distracting from it. But there's a ton of shots in this movie that are like, damn, guys, you put a lot of work into this, and it shows. I wish they had put a little more work into the CGI animals, but they're also like, hey, you want us to hurt real animals or you want CGI ones? You get a choice. And they literally at the beginning of the movie are like, no animals were harmed. They're all CGI. And you're like, no shit. But again, I give them a pass because I'm not asking to be fooled here. I want the story to be there. Does it work in every sense? Not every sense, but there's a lot of stuff where it is working really well, and I was impressed. So let me do this, Rumi. Let me try this. Let me do a rundown, and I'm going to challenge you not to try and stop the rundown because you're going to be like,
I'll turn my mic off.
I'm going to do a rundown of the whole movie, and you guys will not believe.
Like a quick summary, Quick summary,
yeah. Okay. I'm going to try and do it pretty fast. We're going to see how we do it. Okay, here we go. Ready? Governor Scott Bruxton and his wife, Catherine, steal little girl Malie from the Gon tribe. And then after that scene, you get a big "or" appears. And you're like, oh, okay. So then we cut to this like pile-on mosh pit fetish scene where we meet Rama Raju. He's a rising in the ranks of the Indian Imperial Force. He's a police officer, and he fucking dives into this crowd of rioters and is just beating the shit out of everybody.
Hundreds of guys. "Or."
So then we cut to the government office, and the governor's office is warned that a hero from Gon is going to come and save Malie. And they're like, oh, well, he can show up. Yeah, we're the
What's British. He going to take on the English Empire?
Yeah. So then we meet, how do I pronounce this guy's name?
Beam is the short version of his name in most of the language.
So in Bahim, he's trying to catch a wolf, but he catches a tiger instead. And this scene, he's like running through the woods. It's crazy scene. Anyway, he is jacked in that scene. Or then we go back to Raju. He goes undercover and he's infiltrating a bunch of pro-independence gatherings. So this is the Indian man who is an Indian police officer working for the British government. He pretends to be like an insurrectionist and goes underground. He's looking for the hero of the Gon tribe. Then Bahim goes undercover to try and get close to the government palace. So it's two dudes, double undercover, hijinks ensue. We have this crazy train crash action scene that's like a high five of Palooza. Raju and Bahim cross paths for the first time to save this little boy. We are going to get into this scene. This is like one of my favorite parts of the movie. They become like best fucking friends. And they sing about it. They sing about how awesome their friendship is. And that is the first like song that you get in the movie. You're like, okay, two dudes on a motorbike singing about friendship. Super cool. Bahim sees this cute girl Jenny, and he falls for her. Raju helps him court her, and he like
an English girl.
Yeah, an English girl. She is the niece of Governor Scott Bruxton. And they have a fucking dance off, and it's like that song was nominated for an Oscar, and definitely makes you want to like fucking dance when you hear it. Bahim finds,
did it win the Oscar?
Yeah, it did, dude. Bahim finds Mali, but can't take her out of the palace. But he's got a plan. He's like, "Don't worry, I'll come get you. I have a plan." Raju, cut back to the undercover police officer. He captures and tortures Bahim's like comrade, but like his comrade like throws a snake at him. He's like, snake in your face, and Raju gets bit by a really poisonous snake, and he's like, I'm dying, and he runs to Bahim, and Bahim's like, I can save you, and he has the antidote, and it's revealed. He reveals to him, he's like, I'm actually the Gond hero, but they don't know, like Raju's like, holy shit, the guy I've been looking for. Bahim doesn't know that he's an undercover police officer, so it's like super tragic. This is a tragedy. So then Bahim and his friends are like, we have this plan. I have to go, but I'll be back. And Raju is like, oh no, he's the guy I'm looking after. Bahim and his friends launched the craziest rescue mission ever. There's wild animals everywhere, like fireworks and shit. And they're going to like assassinate the governor and save Mali. But then at the last second, Raju shows up and captures Bahim. What the fuck, bro? We find out that Raju has a secret intentions as well. He is trying to arm his village against the British. And like, you're like, oh, they're double undercover. This is like super, super tragic. Raju is forced to publicly flog Bahim, and it's pretty hot. Bahim won't yield and is sentenced to death. At his execution, Raju aids Bahim and Mali's escape, and he's arrested for his betrayal. We learn that Raju's dad was a badass who fought the British with one rifle. Load, aim, shoot! And he has to like shoot his own dad. Oh man, so much tragedy. Meanwhile, Bahim and Mali are on the run, and they encounter Sita, who is Raju's fiance, but they don't know it. And then they find it out. There's all this like, you don't know, and then you find out. Super cool. They find out she's Raju's fiance, and she helps them hide. Bahim realizes that Raju wasn't a bad guy, and he learns that that his buddy's gonna be executed. And he's like, no, gotta go save him. So he goes to save him from this pit in the ground, and they have the craziest like piggyback action sequence you've ever seen. Because
literal piggyback.
Yeah, Raju's legs are broken, so Bahim carries him on his shoulder, and the top guy has two guns, and the bottom guy's running like crazy. And we'll get into that. We'll get into it. They retreat to a nearby forest where they decimate 1 million soldiers, Rambo style. Raju turns into the god Rama, whatever. He goes Super Saiyan, and it's badass. They launch a flaming motorcycle into the governor's palace, and the whole thing goes kaboom, killing everybody but Governor Scott. Bahim shows up with the rifle, the British rifle, and they spit this awesome, like, badass one-liner shit as if they were Samuel L. Jackson. Fucking load, aim, shoot, motherfucker. He's dead. They all go home, and they dance some more. Goddamn ridiculous.
So if you have seen the movie, you know that he just did a really good job of recapping that a lot very fast. If you have not seen the movie, go watch it right now and then come back and watch it with someone, because you're going to need to high five. I'm telling you right now, if you watch this movie without the urge to high five someone, you need to see a doctor.
So we're going to go back through it. As I mentioned, it starts with a little girl. The thing that sets it all off is a little girl gets kidnapped by the British. Basically, she is painting henna on the governess's hand, and she's like, I want to keep this little bird. And her husband's like, fuck yeah, kidnap a little girl. And they drive off. That's what sets this whole thing into motion. But let's talk about the thing we really want to talk about, which is the pylon fetish scene. Where we meet Raju.
So Raju, who also, this movie it's on Netflix right now.
Yeah.
And you could watch it in English. You could watch it with English subtitles. I don't know if they have any of the native language, but there's multiple Indian, Well, there's Hindi, and then the first time I watched it was in Telugu, which I think is what it actually was.
Yes.
Shot and intended to be released in, because this movie is actually a lot of people think Indian movies are Bollywood. Bali is a piece of India. It's a part of India, but it's not where everything is made. Telugu cinema is called Tollywood. So it's a different type of Indian movie, right? It comes from a different place.
Yeah.
So
and for a place with a billion people, you shouldn't be surprised that there's different types.
Yeah, they only make one type of movie.
That's like saying like in America, like everything's Hollywood, which is kind of a misnomer.
Yeah.
I think the more appropriate term is like, well, country music is, Nashville does country music. That's where that comes from. And like, this type of music comes from here and this type of music, like there's different regions where different sort of flavors of music and movies come from, which it's a huge fucking, like, people do not realize how big India is. Like, it's mad. There's a billion people living there. So yes, there are different places, not all Bollywood.
And I guess Tollywood is starting to kind of get as big as Bollywood, I think, is the most well-known over there, but Tollywood is starting to get big. This movie is significant because it is their biggest director and two of their biggest stars all working together. So, like, we do that sometimes too when you have like Steven Spielberg and Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep on the same movie. You're like, oh shit, that's a lot of star power. This was like their version of that. So it was a big deal. The scene that Aaron's talking about is when we're introduced to Raja, who also is called Ram in some of them. He is this police officer, and he is an Indian police officer standing in a small little caged-in English encampment. And there's essentially a giant riot outside with a bunch of Indians going crazy, trying to shake their
thousands of dudes,
cage.
Yeah.
And like they're surrounded.
Yeah.
And some guy chucks a picture, and it hits some English political person picture, and a rock smashes the picture. And the old British guy is like, arrest that man! Bring him to me! And this fucking guy takes his hat off, pulls out his baton, and runs in slow motion, jumps up on an oil can, jumps over this fence, and then just fucking cuts a path through people, just beating the shit out of people to get to this one guy. And it's hundreds of people, and they just pig pile on him, and there's shots kind of like from in a mountain of people. You're under there with him, and he just starts nailing his way out, punching, kicking, getting out, and he cannot be stopped. It is baller. At this point, when I was watching it, I did not know what this movie was about. I had no clue. So I didn't know what to expect. And I was like, holy shit. And it's brutal. He's smacking people with this wooden baton, just crack, crack, crack.
So much ass, dude. This, I was so on board at this point. And the movie does not keep this level of action-packedness through the whole thing. But this is like, if you watch any part of this movie, this is the one to go find. It is a badass scene. It's so fucking cool. He finally gets the guy, hauls him over the fence, and then just like washes the blood off his face, puts his hat back on, and then it like
stands at his post again.
Stands at his post, and it cuts to him being promoted and rising up through the ranks. But you're like, badass. And then it cuts to another and you're like, oh, okay, I get what they're doing. Slow titles. Cool. He's a badass. He's also handsome as fuck. I'll admit it.
Despite a giant Mario mustache, Mario and Luigi mustache.
That's why the mustache is the hottest part. Come on.
The best is you're not wrong. He is hot. And I guess apparently the other star is the bigger name. I was told in the movie, and I guess over there, this guy is, I think, in better shape and hotter. But and Amanda kind of like didn't necessarily agree, because in the next scene we see the other guy shirtless, and he is buff as shit. But the rest of the movie, you don't see him. He's not that buff as shit
for the rest of the movie. Here's the thing. I don't know if they filmed that movie at the beginning or at the end, but he worked out for that scene and then immediately went to crafty, because the rest of the movie, he's he
looks dumpy, right? Maybe it's just his body type. Maybe it's the shirt and his face. Also, I don't think he's as attractive as the Mario guy.
No, he is more akin to my body type, which is husky, handsome and husky, but it's okay. Look, I'm not bagging on the dude's fitness. He's a badass and he's kicking ass, but he in this one scene, I'm like, are those CGI muscles? Because the rest of the movie, he is not that. He's like, okay, I'm not going to drink water or carbs for like a month. And then afterwards, like, I can't keep that. Like maybe that's what happened. He worked out so hard for that one scene where he's like, oh, doing the Samson. Like literally, he's between two ropes trying to keep this tiger from attacking him. It's like a trap. He's running through the woods. He thinks he's catching a wolf. A wolf is chasing him.
And he's running in a loincloth, period.
Yeah. And he is leading the wolf to a trap, but then a tiger shows up. He's being chased by the tiger. And the tiger gets caught in the snare trap. And the tiger's stuck, but then the snare trap, the ropes, the ballast that is yanking the tiger into the air breaks, and he runs and grabs both sides of the rope. So he's yanking on him like Samson tied between the two pillars. And he's like, ah, and the camera just carves down his body. Just like, look at these guys.
See, I think this scene is as powerful, if not more, than the last action scene, because he's holding these two ropes, and the tension on the rope is what's keeping the tiger off of him. Yeah. And the tiger is right in his face. Yeah. And then the ropes snap. And the tiger jumps on him. And this motherfucker is wrestling a tiger who's scratching his back. And I'm like, damn, that guy, the last guy just fought like 100 guys. This guy is fighting a tiger. And I was like, I don't know who's fucking cooler or hotter in this situation. They're both ultra badass.
What badass?
And he wins the battle.
And, yeah. And so now we got a goddamn tiger. So that's cool. They got a tiger. It's foreshadowing for a scene that happens later. Also,
Amanda's going, why is he capturing a tiger? And I was like, well, they're introducing him, the character. The movie just started. Dude. She's like, but I don't understand. Why is he doing this? I was like, well, Amanda, I didn't want to reveal it.
Yeah, the movie.
And then I said, don't you think the movie will tell you if it's important? She's like, I just want to know. I was like, do you want me to tell you? She was like, I guess. I was like, there's going to be something about it later.
Yeah.
Like, well, also, why do you care? The tiger, it was cool. The tiger and grabbing the guy fought the tiger off. Dude, just showing how, even if the tiger wasn't important, he's showing how badass he is.
That was the point of the scene, to show off that he's badass and he's right. Strong. But like, I'm a fucking idiot American. And I'm like, are they catching the tiger for like, I'm an idiot. I'm like, are they eating the tiger? Like, I don't fucking know. Like, I don't know how
tigers work.
I don't know how any of this works. It's one of those movies, kind of like when you watch My Bloody Valentine, where you're like, I understand that he used a tool to kill somebody, but I've never been in a mine, so I don't even understand how that tool works. I don't know what that tool is. I don't know why are there clothes up in the rafters? Why do they do that? Why are the showers broke? Like, none of this makes sense to me because I've never worked anywhere in a mine. So like, there are many moments here where I'm like, I'm such an idiot. I've never been to India. All my experiences from the movies that I've seen. So it's like, what are they going to do with the tiger? I had the same question. I had no fucking clue. I'm just a dumb.
Within like 30 minutes or so, you see them bringing meat and throwing it through a slide in a door, and you hear a large beast growl. So you know, like, okay, they have the tiger, and the tiger is here.
So then we have a couple of scenes that shows Raju and Bahim, they're both going undercover to try and find each other. They don't realize that they're after each other, but undercover scene. You see that there's political unrest in India because at this point it's a period piece. At this point, they're still under British rule.
1920, so colonialism.
Yeah, and it sucks, and they're assholes. The British dudes suck. But we get to this fucking baller scene where they cross paths for the first time. The setup is Bahim sees this like kid, and he's like, "I'll catch you a fish, mister, for a couple bucks." And he's like, "Sure, I'll eat a fish. Let's do that." And the kid goes out, and he's on a little raft, and he's trying to get a fish. Above, there's a train, and the train is coming along, and something happens. There's an explosion. What causes the explosion, Remy? Do you remember?
The train is carrying oil or gas or something, and it's leaking. Yeah. And it leaks onto the tracks, and when the train hits the brakes, there's sparks, and the sparks ignite that. The train explodes and falls into the lake. And creates this giant lake of fire around this little fishing kid.
Yeah, so the kid's like, help me. And Bahim's like, oh shit, little kid, up above on the top of the bridge.
Bahim's up on the bridge. Bahim's on the bank. On the
ground. Raju's up above, and he's like, oh fuck, and he runs, and he looks down, and he looks to the bank, and he sees Bahim, and Bahim and him make eye contact, and they're like, let's save this fucking kid. And you're like, fuck yeah, like nonverbal communication skills. Bahim hops on a fucking horse. Raju hops on motorcycle and they drive up to the bridge and they're doing these hand signals where he's like, you do this and you do this. And they're like, yeah, bro. Yeah, bro. And they grab these Indian flags and they're like tying them together, all these flags. And it's like
there's a giant rope. They tie it to.
Yeah. They tie it to each other's waists and they're doing this big circle on the motorcycle and the horse. And then they're like on the count of 3 and they rush towards the opposite edges of the bridge. And the motorcycle crashes into the wall. He jumps off the horse. They both jump. They're airborne. The rope catches them and they swing down below and grab the little boy and like, boom, grab hands in a fucking like Predator level high five.
No, it's even cooler than that. They swing down and Raju has the flag.
Yeah.
And Beam doesn't have anything yet. As they pendulum down, Raju holds the flag into the water so the flag gets wet. Beam puts his hand out and grabs the kid.
Yeah.
When they pass each other, Beam throws the kid to Raju and Raju throws the flag to Beam. They each catch those things, and as they swing backwards, Raju throws the kid to the bank, and Beam wraps himself in the wet flag so that he goes through the flames.
Fire, yeah.
Comes back and is okay, drops the flag, and then they do this "you son of a bitch" hand grab, and they introduce themselves. They introduce themselves under the bridge, and then they drop into the water, and this song is playing, and it's an Indian song, and the subtitles are explaining that it's about like, you know, one unstoppable weapon and one force that can't be tempered. And while this song is happening, the two men are submerged underwater, walking on the bottom of the lake towards each other to embrace each other. It's fucking epic.
I love that you brought up the song, though, because there's all these, like, you know, the subtitles are explaining, but the songs are like, you know, catchy songs, but they're explaining shit as they go, more so than like most songs do. They're like, here's these two guys, they're gonna be friends. They don't know that the one is hiding a secret. And you're like,
how can this not end in violence and bloodshed?
Yeah.
It's catchier than we're making it out to be, but that's the gist of what's happening.
But like, right, like the songs are almost a rap level of explanation. They're like,
yeah.
So they sing this song about friendship while they're like riding tandem on motorcycles and like high-fiving.
The most epic bromance montage. They climb this giant human pyramid, which apparently was a real thing. That I mean, I know it's a real ceremony, but apparently they shot a real one, and these guys climb this giant human pyramid and then hit a piñata at the top and then jump off. They're doing motorcycle shit together. They're walking. They're just becoming the best fucking friends. And in like 15 minutes worth of montage,
they're watching sunset.
But then they're also like each doing their own thing, right? Beam is trying to look into finding Millie and or Molly, and Raju is looking for the guy who got away. So they're each doing this thing, and then they almost find each other doing that shit a couple of times, but they still don't know. They're just still broing up.
But I will say that train scene was my first high five moment where I was like, fuck yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So cool.
For sure. And I would say that train scene, there might have been 2 high fives in it if we watched it together.
There's definitely one of the passes when he tosses the kid and they do the flag bit.
Yeah.
And then when you get the son of a bitch handshake, I was like, hell yeah.
It's just so cool.
So fucking cool. A lot of singing about friendship. Super brotacular, really brotacular. We'll get to it. So Bahim sees this cute girl, Jenny. She's the niece of the governor. And he's like, I love her. And Raju's like, dude, you don't even know how to talk to a girl. I'll help you. And like, they threw some funny things. We don't have to get into it. We really don't. But this is
cute. The comedy scene. And like, they're growing up because Raju is helping Beam with his love. He's giving him some words. He's giving him some translation, and he's giving him some ideas, and he sets them up. And I was like, that's what a bro does.
There are some confusing pieces because if you watch like the translated one where there's a bunch of jokes.
They're speaking the same language.
They're speaking the same language. There's a bunch of jokes that he can't pronounce things properly. And that's like the funny bits. And he's trying to teach him, you know, he doesn't know how to say her name. And like, he thinks that her name is, no, just call me Jenny, please. And it's like, you know,
he thinks that whole thing is her name.
Is her name. Yeah. There's some funny
jokes. It gets lost if you watch it in English. If you watch it in one of the Indian languages, it plays because her actual language is English.
Yeah.
In the movie.
So, you know, there's some funny stuff there, but she invites him to some things. He invites her to some things. But one of the things she invites him to is like a posh party. And, you know, Raju helps him spruce up and they show up to the party and some like British guy there's like, you asshole Indian dudes, we hate you. You suck. Get the fuck out of here. I bet you can't even dance. You suck. Yeah. Like,
you don't know the flamingo. You don't know the salsa. He trips him and makes him fall. And Beam is on the floor like a pansy. And he's just like, you can't do any of these dances that only English people know.
Right. It's one of those like unnecessarily mean bully moments in movies. But like, also, it's not that mean. It's like British mean where you're like, oh, you can't even do the salsa.
Wait a minute. British mean in this movie is like white people mean in a Spike Lee movie. The British in this movie are fucking unrelentingly terrible.
True, but not in this scene. In this,
fair.
Like in the scope of like shit that they like, dude, I just found out about cannoning this week, which is like, what the fuck? Like British people used to scare Indians into submission to keep their colonial rule. They used to literally like tie a dude to the wheels of a cannon and fire a cannonball through him in front of people, which is like, oh, fuck. Like that's disgustingly brutal.
So dance off is not that big of a deal.
Yeah. I was like, I kind of want to see that in a movie, but that's terrible that happened in real life. Dance off is not that big of a deal. Anyway, we get this fucking awesome dance off, and the song is called Not To, but
So wait. Can I just say, because this is literally my favorite part of the entire movie. Dude, my favorite part of the movie.
What word did you hear when the song was happening, though?
I've heard two different versions.
Okay.
Not To, I think, was the first one I saw when I heard it in
Telugu?
Was it Tang? Yeah,
Telugu.
When I heard it in Telugu, that's what it was. Then now it's Nacho when I watch it on
the American one is Nacho, and I was like, man, I am so hungry right now. I need some nachos. Nacho.
When the British guy trips Beam falls into a waiter and knocks the metal tray that they're holding to the floor. And all the whole time that the British guy is razzing on him, this metal tray is rolling in slow motion.
Yeah.
And as that happens, the British guy's like, you can't even dance. And then we see the tray start to stop and someone kicks it up into the air, flipping. It lands on the drum set. And who is standing at the drum set but Raju? And he starts laying down a beat. And at this point, I was like, this is the greatest bro movie I have ever seen. This to me is even better than the whole train bridge scene because like any two bros would be like, hey, I'd swing off a bridge and save a kid with you because that's fucking cool. But if I saw you getting punked by some other guy and I could play the drums to help you in front of your girl, you bet your ass I would do it. And I did not expect that. I did not see that there was a musical number coming, but I also did not know that this guy was just gonna be like, oh, by the way, I can also fucking play the drums for you. Boom, ba boom, ba boom, boom, and it's like, what the? And then he just strolls up. Do you know Natu? And it's like the most epic dance thing. Oh God, it's just so fucking cool. It's my favorite part of the movie.
They dance their fucking ass off. Here's the thing. You said it. The two dudes, the two heroes in this movie do everything well. Everything they do, they're good at it. They're good at being muscular. They're good at kicking ass. They're good at saving kids. Dude, let me ask you this.
Singing, dancing.
If you and I were trying to do the train thing and you did any one of the hand movements, I'd be like, what the fuck am I doing? And you'd be like, you'd be like, I'd see you jump off and then you'd see me jumping off and it would go into slow-mo and you're like, dude, you're not holding the rope. I was like, I was supposed to hold the rope as I fall into the fire.
What the hell is a sign for rope?
Well, like, yeah, I would not be on board with how fast that situation was progressing, and I would end up burning alive. You'd throw me the wet flag, and I'd be like, oh shit, there it goes. Like, yeah, I am not.
I can't catch.
Like, I like to think that I could do some badass stuff. I could do this dance shit. I've shown up to karaoke bars and basically pulled off the Natu equivalent of like, winning the joint over. But
singing or dancing?
Singing. I can dance. I
want to see some not do dancing.
I mean, you've seen me dance, bro.
I have. I was actually telling a story about Comic-Con dancing the other day.
I dance with,
but this is a great dance off. This turns into a dance. It's a crazy dance number.
Yeah.
And then halfway through it's a long number too. It turns into a dance off. Yes. Like the British guys are like, fuck this. Because the girls are dancing with them. So they're like, fuck this. Let's get up there and show them we could figure this dance out. And it's like a dance off where they're like dancing as hard as they can. And people start dropping and they're dropping to the floor and they get cramps. And again, another baller bro move. What happens at the end? So you got 3 contestants left.
Yeah. And they're dancing super fucking hard. And you got Bahim and Raju are basically the last 2 standing. And women, because Raju, obviously, with his mustache, is the hottest one there, they're chanting his name, and Jenny starts chanting Bahim's name, and Raju sees her chanting, and he's like, I got you, bro, and he takes the fall, and he lets Bahim win, and Jenny's like, yeah, sploosh, and he's like, fuck yeah, but then, like, the very next scene, like, they're, like, hobbling, they're like, oh my god, why did we do that dance?
Cut to Beam on Raju's back, and which is foreshadowing of the cool gun scene later. Yeah. But also it's just fucking adorable that this guy just broed him a victory, and now he's literally walking with him on his shoulders because he loves him so much, and his little buddy danced so hard to get a girlfriend. I love that shit. I'm on board for this. I want them to end up together. Fuck Jenny.
Well, that's the thing. At some point, we are going to have to play the game. Is it gay? Doesn't matter. Does not matter. We love it either way. I'm happy for them, no matter what. But I don't know at what point you're like, oh, that's just their culture. They are more comfortable with male intimacy and, like, you know, dudes touching each other and broing down, and like that's just part of that culture. And at what point it crosses over into like, oh, this is actually a love story. I don't know. The lines are so blurred for me in this movie. I think at this point it's still brotastic. It doesn't not until we get to the BDS scene that I'm like, oh, this is there it is. This
I heard that the director Rajamouli had said, and this is a quote, it's an unapologetic relationship between 2 friends. And I like that. Like, whatever you want to say it is or it isn't. Yeah. I like that it's just 2 dudes who are like, fuck this. Like, or, you know, it's Rajamouli's depiction of this relationship where these 2 guys are like, we're bros for life, man. I don't care how you quantify that. I quantify that as child saving, dancing, piggyback rides. I would do all those things with you.
The occasional whipping. We'll get to it. We'll get to it.
I wouldn't whip you, but okay. So they win this dance off. It's fucking. That's my favorite. My favorite part is when he's playing the drums, though, because it's like, yeah, he's there. I've never had a man in my life be there for me that hard to play the drums at some posh British party to make me look good.
It's fucking great. It's a great fucking scene. Bahim gets into the palace because of Jenny's approval. She helps him get in. She's like, come check out my art. And he's like, all right, fine. But he sneaks off and he finds Mali, and she's like, get me out of here. And he's like, I can't, but I got a plan. She's like, okay. While that's happening, Raju finally captures one of Bahim's like comrades, and he's torturing the shit out of him. It's kind of gnarly. He's beating the living shit out of this dude. And he's like, tell me where he is. Tell me where the hero of Gandhi is. I'm going to kick your ass. And that goes on for a while. It's a long ass torture scene. But
which is kind of jarring because we've just watched him bro across the universe.
Yeah.
And you love him because he's being a good guy. And then like, oh shit, he's a bad guy. We got to remember he is technically a traitor to the Indians at this point, working with the English. Yeah. And you're like, I forgot that he's fucking brutal. And that cool scene at the beginning when he's beating the shit out of people, he was beating the shit out of people who were mad at the British for taking over their shit.
Yeah.
So he technically is the antagonist. He's the bad
on
guy,
the
right?
wrong side of things. And they remind you that pretty hardcore. You're like, bro, we get that you're like, why do you have to go so hard, dude? Anyway, his comrade, the guy he's torturing through some trickery is like, I got a snake in my pocket. Whoosh-ah! And he throws this like super venomous snake and it bites Raju in the face. And he's like the only person
in the arm.
In the arm. Why can't it be the face? It can be the face this time.
Because his mustache would not allow it.
His mustache would
his mustache would have bit the snake.
So he gets bitten. He's like, the only person who has the antidote are the gone people. And the comrade dies. So then Raju's like, he's dying. He's like, oh, fuck. And you get one of those like, he runs outside and just happens to see Bahim, who's like basically plotting with his buddies. And they're like, oh shit, is that my homie Raju? Fuck. And he's like, you got bit by a snake. And he's like,
Raju is playing the same drum beat from the party. That's how he knows that he's over there in trouble. He hears it and he goes investigates. And
he uses his shaman magic to help him with the antidote. But like Raju's like, oh fuck, my best bro knows the antidote, and I was told that the Gond hero is the one who knows the antidote. And Bahim takes Raju back home, and he's like, dude, I need to tell you something. And because you're dying, like, I want to make sure that, like, if you don't make it, you need to know this. But like, I'm from Gond. I'm a Gond hero, and like, I'm here to save this girl. And he's like, but don't worry, my friend. We'll have plenty of time to talk about that. I have something I got to go do.
We're always going to be friends. Yeah. We're going to be friends forever. You're going to be okay. I'll come right back. And then we're going to be friends forever.
Friends forever. Oh, man. So he leaves. Bahim leaves. And Raju, like, struggles, but he's like, no. And you get this, like, angry scene where he's smashing shit and punching shit. He's all pissed off because, like, he knows that his best buddy is the guy he's looking for. And you're like, tragedy. So Bahim's up to something. There's a big party at the governor's palace. Huge party. Fireworks and candlelight, and everybody's dressed up to the nines, and there's a band, and all this shit's happening. And
in a giant courtyard, because the palace is essentially like a giant courtyard with a giant gate.
Yeah. And Bahim and his buddies, they have a truck, and the truck is covered with a tarp, and they're timing the gate opening and closing so they can bust through the gate with this truck. And they time it perfectly. Boom. Truck busts through. The party's like, what the fuck? Everybody's running in chaos. The truck flips over in slow motion. And as the truck flips over, they pull the tarp off, and you realize what the tiger was for. Fucking bad ass, dude.
As the truck like screeches sideways, all of these they pull the tarp up, and the truck is covered in all these cages.
Yes.
And all these cages are open, and Beam, dressed like a friggin' warrior, jumps out with all these different wild animals jumping with him. Giant elks with huge antlers, tigers, cheetahs, panthers, wolves, all these things just jumping in glorious, relatively crappy slow motion CG. But like at this point, it doesn't look like real animals, but matter. You give zero fucks because you're too busy high-fiving everybody, right? That's a high five moment for sure.
Fucking for sure. The animals start fucking everybody up. People are getting their throats ripped out. Dudes are getting killed by tigers. People are getting tossed in the air. The British guys are shooting muskets. Fireworks start going off and destroying things. It is bedlam. It is mayhem. And then Raju shows up, and he starts fucking up tigers. He starts punching deers in the face. He is going after Bahim.
He's wearing his whole police uniform, right?
Bahim is climbing the walls while the chaos is going around him to go save Mali and probably kill the governor, because the governor's retreating to his inner sanctum area of the courtyard. And he's like, I'm going to kill this girl if you don't surrender. And he's like, I'm going to kill you and everybody around you. I don't give a shit. And you believe he can do it too. And Bahim jumps off the ramparts to kill the governor, and suddenly he's like, I'm stuck, and turns up, and Raju has grabbed him. He's like, brother, homie, what's up? And he's like, I'm a police officer, and I caught you. And you're like, no.
Can I tell you that leading into this scene, I looked over at Lauren, and I was like, I am so emotionally invested in this that I'm anxious. Yeah. I don't want this fight to happen. And I don't remember the last time I felt that way in a movie where, like, this thing is about to happen, but you're so gripped, you're so caught up in your suspension of disbelief that you're like invested. I have not been more invested in a movie or a scene in a long time. I was like, these two bros have to fight now, and I was upset about it. I was.
Dude, it is brutal, but I want to put a pin in this. Like we're going to keep talking about, but I want to put a pin in this to come back to, because I want you all to remember the moment when the tigers are jumping out of the cage and Raju has arrived in his police uniform. Just keep this in your mind, because we're going to come back to this, because I have something I need to ask you, Rumi. So don't let me forget. So basically they have a fight. It's not a huge fight, but it's still pretty like upsetting.
It's a huge fight. Are you kidding?
Not as huge as other stuff that happens later, but it's like a fight.
Well, I mean, it's hard to quantify that in this movie.
It's like a Warriors level fight. How about that?
No,
Yes.
it's emotional as fuck, because the whole like
So they
It's
punch each
rough.
other. They punch each other a few times and fall off a couple balconies. But Raju captures Bahim. That's what it ends with, right? He's captured.
Yeah.
Oh fuck. And like, yeah, it is brutal, right? And
Yeah. So now he's captured, and that's how it goes into an intermission.
intermission. Should we take an intermission now? Okay, guys, come back in 13 minutes. No, just kidding. We're gonna keep it going. So he's captured his friend, and Raju has this like flashback moment as he feels guilty that he's kind of betraying his friend. And he has this flashback where he goes, we see that he's leaving his village, and he's like, I won't come back without weapons. I'm going to be your savior. I'm going to make my father proud, and I'm not coming back until I have the weapons to arm all of you to fight the British. And you're like, wait, he's an undercover agent? Coming back to that pin, Rumi, if you were the undercover police agent, you're Raju, I'm Bahim, you just saw me come into a courtyard flying with tigers. Do you go, I better arrest that guy and do my job? Or do you go, oh, he's got a way fucking better plan. I'm going to get on board with that plan. Let's get the tigers going. Come on, tigers, let's go. Like, seriously, wouldn't you be like, oh, we're on the same side? I better get on the side with the tigers and not go through with my stupid plan. Like, what the fuck were you thinking, bro? The second I found out that he was a double agent, I was actually mad at him, because the second I saw tigers in the mix, I would have been on board with that dude's plan. This is when somebody's so fucking stubborn because you think you have a good idea and you're not willing to let your plan go to the wayside, when somebody literally shows up with goddamn tigers and animals and they're killing everybody.
The tiger plan was cooler, but that was for one thing. You can't arming a army is probably a better long-term plan for winning a war than a tiger attack.
If your level of like testicular action, you could go catch the 10 tigers and come back every week with more tigers.
That's true. They probably could catch 10 tigers. If they work together, yeah, they would fucking own tigers.
Dude, they could,
maybe.
If they work together, they could just walk in and steal all the rifles they need. Anyway, I thought that was a fucking, that was selfish of it. He's selfish. I'm mad at him at this point.
That scene, though, where they first fight with the tiger scene, that is what Revenge of the Sith should have been. That is what Anakin versus Obi-Wan should have been. And I thought that the entire movie, because I was like, you're making me like both of these guys. You're making me love them as a couple. And like, the movie doesn't have to be 3 hours long to achieve that. There's a lot of stuff that happens in this movie that, I don't think you could say that RRR had 3.5 hours to work with and Revenge of the Sith didn't. But like, you could have made me care about those two characters as a unit to the point where when they fought, I was upset. And I legit was upset watching these two guys in RRR fight. I didn't give a fuck during Revenge of the Sith, during episode 3, because that movie is such shit. But like, that's what this should have been.
Bro.
What's that?
I have the high ground, and Anakin's like, you didn't show up with fucking tigers, dude. I would have been on board if you showed up with tigers.
Givetti comes screeching in a TIE fighter and opens up the door, and like a bunch of fucking neck battle attack dogs jump out. That's a deep cut right there.
That's impressive, my dude. So yeah, I was mad at him at this point because I think that's pretty selfish. But you're right. He's playing the long game, and they're just trying to save this girl. I get it. The ramifications for Bahim's arrest, Raju gets like promoted big time. He gets the red vest, which means he has
red coat. He
has access to the weapons now, which is a big deal. And he's proud of that, but he's like, dude, I betrayed my friend. And they're like, yeah, and now we're going to like make him an example. We're going to publicly flog him, and you're going to be there. And he's like, oh, bro, sounds hot.
Flog him till he confesses his crimes
and kneels. Yeah. And he's like, sounds hot. I'm there.
That's what he said. That was a direct Telugu translation.
Sounds hot. So then we get this like, I I haven't seen a sexy ass vlogging scene like this since Passion of the Christ. It goes on so fucking long. At first, he's like, again, the callback, he's like chained up, his arms are out, and he won't kneel. So they like beat him in his knees. So then he's like dragging his toes on the ground. He's just holding himself up by his own strength. And they throw this whip down, and Raju's whipping him with the whip. And then they're like, the shitty baroness or whatever she is, governess. She's like,
you can't skip over. Yeah, she's enough. Like, there's not enough blood.
Yeah,
I thought there'd be more blood. Hit him harder. So then he whips him, and then she goes, "There's not. He's not kneeling." She goes, "Use this," and from under her seat, she pulls out a black whip covered in spikes.
Spikes.
Without explanation. Where the fuck did that come from? Did she bring that, or is that just always under her chair? And she throws it down to him.
Told you.
Then she's like, hit the pillar first so she could see how it will rip him. And this whip wraps around the pillar, and he pulls it, and it just chainsaws it, rips out splinters and shit.
That's like Jenny a classic horror movie like trick. Show it on something real, so that when you get hit with the fake axe, you're still like, oh,
right.
Yeah, you know, ooh, I saw it split that log. It must be real sharp.
Yeah.
So then he whips the shit out of him some more. There's blood everywhere. And he starts singing this song. And he's like, I'm not going to kneel. And my strength is from the people. And the wind gives me strength. And my tears give me strength. And the people start rioting.
If I give in to this, am I really a child of the forest?
Yeah. And the people start rioting. And it starts getting really violent. And the police are beating on the people. He's whipping him. Raju's whipping Bahim. The people are like, oh, God. And they usher him away, and they're like, he didn't kneel. And you know, but
Raju is heartbroken. You could say Raju is sad. He doesn't want to be doing this. He now is questioning, if not thinking, he's doing the wrong thing. So he is not as strong as he was a minute ago. This
made him hard as fuck. I mean, was hard as fuck for him. I got a bunch of them, dude. They keep coming. Anyway, he flogs the shit out of his buddy, and it's really bad. And he's like, I need to help him because they're going to execute him the next day, and I won't be able to help him. So he's like, hey, you know what? You should execute him and make the little girl watch, and you should execute him on the edge of the forest so there's no protesters around. And the governor's like, I like the way you think, dude. Thanks for that suggestion. And he knows that he can help him, but will probably be sacrificing himself to do that.
So this is a Raju's plan to try to help Beam. But the best part is he at no point like gives a nod or a wink or a look to Beam. So Beam doesn't know that this is a plan.
Again, this is a miscommunication between buddies, which would have me be like, oh, I was supposed to duck when you threw that axe at my head, and now I'm dead.
You didn't just fucking like, but he could have winked at him or given him a look or something. I mean, you and I have a short-term enough thing that I think if you were chained up and I was going to pretend to kill you in front of someone you cared about, I could give you a little like,
yeah, right. They didn't even.
Oh, you're still my launch pad, bro.
Yeah. They didn't even ask me any question. So the next day, they're going to shoot him or they're going to hang him. Anyway, he's out at the execution spot. Raju is driving with Mali, and they trigger a trap to stop the governor. And the governor's car, is it a rope or a rock? What does he hit?
A tree slams down, but the governor sees it coming, and somehow, I watched it last night, the tree hits the hood of the car upends, the governor goes up in the air, but grabs his rifle while in the air, and then is able to shoot it, but you don't see how he landed, so he didn't get hurt, I guess.
Yeah.
So
it's kind of cool, though.
It affects in his... Oh, and also Raju had tampered with a bunch of rifles. So all the army guys that are around Beam, their rifles aren't working.
They aren't working.
Right? So Beam and Mali start to run away. They start to get away. And Raju is kicking ass all over the place and stopping everybody. And
Bahim and him have another confrontation, and Bahim thinks that he's trying to kill him. And he's like, you asshole, you whipped the shit out of me.
No, Bahim thinks he's trying to kill Mali because there's a British soldier behind Mali, and we know that Raju is trying to kill this guy. He shoots. Beam watches it. Beam yells at Mali. Mali drops. The bullet goes past him, and Beam jumps on top of Raju and clubs him in the fucking head.
Beats him.
And I was like, damn. And then he's over him. Now, we've already seen there was a scene where Raju could have stabbed Beam earlier in the last fight, but he didn't because they're bros. So he withheld. And now you have the same thing with Beam on top of a beaten Raju. And he takes this thing and he's about to stab him. And he takes a deep breath. And then he stabs down or smashes down. And I was like, oh my God, I was totally sucker. I was like, he just killed him and he didn't even know that the last thing he did was save Mali. He just killed his best friend and he's going to forever think that he was evil. And then as Beam and Mali run away, the camera whips around and Beam did that thing where you slam down next to the person you were going to kill, but not really kill them because you couldn't do it. So I was like, oh, like seriously, the relief I felt at that moment. I was like, oh my God. Okay, good. Thank God.
So the ramifications after this, the British government's pissed. They're like, search everywhere, look everywhere, find them. You know, the dogs are out. They're looking for Bahim and Mali, and we see that their whole like village is in hiding now, and they're hiding in not, you know, they can't stay at their home. They're in deep hiding, and they come across this woman Sita, and she helps them, and the British are like closing in, and they're about to find them, and Sita runs in. She's like, oh my God, it's the plague, or it's smallpox. And she's like, there's smallpox in here. Don't come in here. Don't come in here. And the British are like, and they run away. And Bahim's like, thank you for saving us. And she's like, you guys are hungry. I would help anybody. Here's some food. And she's like, my fiance is away and I miss him. And he's like, oh, who is he? And she's like, his name's Raju. And he's like, oh shit. And she's like, he's been arrested. They're going to execute him. And he's like, oh shit. And he wrote me this letter. And in the letter's like, I miss you, but dude, I betrayed my bro, and that hurts more than anything.
I met this guy. You're not going to believe
it. He likes riding motorcycles and high-fiving like me. And she's like, oh. So she reads this letter, and Bahim's like, oh, I was wrong. And he was actually like had a mission of his own. And we get this flashback of Sita telling about like the history of Raju's mission. And we see Raju as a little kid. They keep flashing back to this periodically.
You get pieces of it, yeah.
We'll talk about it here.
Each time you get a little bit more that makes more sense in context.
Raju's father worked for the British military briefly, and he saw them executing elders of different villages. And in one of these situations, this guy's about to shoot this elder who didn't pay his taxes or didn't do what he was supposed to do. And he's about to get shot, and the governor shows up, and he's like, this is British bullets, man. Do you know how much it costs to get a British bullet here? That's not worth this dude's life. Find a different way. And he like beats him to death with the butt of a rifle. And
this is the same thing that happened at the beginning to Mali's mother. A soldier was going to shoot him, and the same governor was like, do you know how much that bullet in your gun cost?
Yeah.
It was made in England by British workers and then shipped over on the British, vessels. And then it was put there. It's like, it's worth 1 shilling.
Yeah. Not
but
worth
now we've
this
heard this
life.
speech twice now, right? Yeah. It's not worth a brown life. Find another way.
Yeah. And so his dad is like, I will not serve these people anymore. So he is training his village to fight them, but they only have 1 rifle and limited bullets. And you find out that Raju is like, Dad, let me shoot the gun. Let me shoot the gun. He's like, no. Like when I give you bullets and when I give you guns, when I arm the people, you must make every shot count. And, you get a couple moments where like he steals the rifle and he's actually a really good shot and his father's proud of him. And then the British show up and they just start massacring the village. And his dad and Raju are like pinned down, and his dad's just picking motherfuckers off. And he's screaming, load, aim, shoot, pow, pow. And they are just picking these dudes off, but it's a losing battle. And Raju's dad is like, I need to get your mom and sister, and you need to get you out of here. And so he stands up and he's like, hey, Well,
he gets shot a couple times.
Oh,
then
yeah,
Raju takes the gun and Raju starts shooting.
So he's like, you need to get out of here. And he sends the women and kids away. And he's like, get out of here, Raju. And he goes to surrender. But then Raju takes up the gun and his dad's screaming, load, fire, shoot.
Oh.
He's bleeding, filled with bullet holes. He's bleeding everywhere. And he was basically sacrificing himself so his kid could get away. And his kid's like, pow, 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 make every shot count, load, aim, shoot. And like he's firing around his dad, and then his dad like lifts up the back of his cloak and there's dynamite strapped to him, and like the last bullet he has.
Well, because the Englishmen kill Raju's brother, shot him in the back, and then Raju's mom as she ran to the brother, and then he was like, Baba, mother died, and the father's like, load. It's like, you got to do this. Then he walks over, looks like he's surrendering. And then Raju shoots him in the back where his dynamite is and just boom, blows that army away and ends that scene, that flashback.
Fucking crazy. Damn. That scene is where it got me. That's where I was like, damn, he really is a tragic hero who's trying to do something. And like, that's your life.
Right.
And you've had to come up being like this bad guy. Like, damn, dude, that's deep cover shit right there. That's like you, but also you have to wonder, like, did he get lost in the game a little bit? Like, is he?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
At what point did he sacrifice more of himself than his mission was worth? I think when you're whipping the shit out of your friend, no matter how hot you think that is, just like you have to. Wonder.
I don't know,
like,
man.
That's gone too far.
There's like you could say the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. I get that, but then you're whipping your best friend. Who you've already betrayed. This isn't even the betrayal. You've already betrayed him to get him on the post.
Jesus, yeah.
That's rough. That's rough.
Shot his own dad. But back in the story, Bahim is like, well, shit. If he's going to get executed, I'm going to go save him. And she's like, what? And he's like, I'm that friend. And she's like, we find out that Raju's alive and his legs have been like, fucking beat the shit. They basically
tortured him and broke his legs.
They've basically been hanging him from the ceiling with his legs dangling, free floating off the ground. They just keep beating the shit out of his leg, so he can barely walk. And they're like, haha, you won't even get to see the sunrise before we kill you. So they throw him in this pit and he can't even stand up.
And because he keeps working out, and they're like, why do you keep exercising even if you're going to die tomorrow? And he's like, because you always work towards your goal no matter what. So they break his fucking legs and then throw him in this little hole. And the first thing he does is pick his leg up and move it. And then he grabs onto because the pit has a gate over the top of it. He grabs the gate, starts doing fucking pull-ups. And you're like, yeah, Raju.
So Bahim shows up.
So cool.
Big stealth scene, him sneaking around and trying to find him. And he finds him in the pit. And it's a long scene.
How does he find him?
I don't know. We don't have to. It's too much tapping. So much drumming. So it takes way too long. Anyway, he finds him in the pit and he's like, I can't walk. And he's like, then I will carry you. And he pulls off the fucking grate in the ground.
Breaks the grate with his hands.
Breaks it. Pulls his buddy out and puts him on his shoulders. And we have the most epic piggyback ride you've ever seen in your life, because Raju has 2 pistols and he's doing all these like crazy, like malignant style
muskets.
Moves. Muskets, firing the guns, killing dudes left and right while he's riding his buddy on his buddy's shoulders.
And Beam is reloading for him. Beam is chambering the next round for him. It's so fucking cool.
They're jumping off of high structures. They're climbing up guard towers. Like, it's like if Human Centipede turned into an action movie. Like it's
for sure high five ridiculous moment, right?
Oh, big high five moment, dude. When they're climbing up, like two dudes climbing on top of each other, then climbing up other shit and diving off and shooting dudes, blowing stuff up left and right. He's like bending over backwards, doing Matrix stuff. It is so fucking crazy. They run into the woods and they're hiding, and like they're surrounded, and they just keep sending more dudes. But these guys are Rambo style. They're sneaking up behind them, slitting their throats, stabbing them with arrows, fucking shit up. And it's like brutal Rambo fighting, but like they're surrounded. And there's this temple there of Rama, which is a archer. This is again where like idiot white guy is going to start showing real hard. Bahim's hiding in the water, and Raju takes the bow off of the statue of Rama, and he basically goes Super Saiyan and turns into a god. Is what
Beam
is your
also Beam also fixes his legs, so now Raju can run and jump and all over that shit.
What is your understanding of this moment specifically? Does he
I don't know if he becomes divine or if he just takes this thing off of a shrine and uses it because he's a badass.
But he changes completely. Like his hair turns into this like as cool as my hair. He completely transforms into like some other being. I mean, he goes Super Saiyan, right?
Well, like in the same scene though, there's a lot of motorcycles and Beam catches and throws 2 motorcycles. That looks cute, Rumi. Beam catches and throws 2 motorcycles over his head. Like it's not like he swings around. He picks up a motorcycle and throws it twice.
I love it.
I don't know if maybe the gods are behind them or maybe they just always have that strength. But to me, doesn't matter why it's happening. There's crazy fucking arrow scenes. He shoots an arrow through a tree and it doesn't get the guy on the other side. He jumps up, kicks the back of the arrow through the rest of the tree into the other guy's face.
Shoots the pins off of grenades to make them explode into dudes. Like fucking baller. Yeah, motorcycles. And like the governor's watching from afar and he just sees the explosions and they're getting closer. This is like the most epic action. Like they're like, fuck it.
It's a very John Wick action scene in the woods here, right? With 2 guys. One's got a spear, one's got a bow and arrow. It's just badass. A lot of cool kills.
They get to the gates of the governor's palace and like Raju looks to Beheem. He's like, you think what I'm thinking? He's like, fuck yeah, I am. And I'm like,
because one's on a motorcycle and one's on a horse.
And they go charging towards the palace. Beheem ramps the motorcycle up this rock and like dives off. And the motorcycle goes flying through a window, lands inside the battery where all the bombs
Raju shoots it with a fire arrow, so it turns into a Ghost Rider cycle.
Fucking flaming motorcycle, launching it into
the armory window.
The armory window. And you get this chain reaction of everything blowing up. And we see like a bunch of soldiers die. The governess dies. The whole building collapses. It's baller. I want to bring up one thing though. Do you remember in one of the Die Hard movies when he destroys a helicopter with a motorcycle and everybody was like,
boo. Off the toll booth? Yeah.
I ran out of bullets. And in this movie, everybody goes, yay. What the fuck, guys? Like, can we get consistent?
I liked it in Die Hard. That Die Hard movie is not nearly as good as the first 3, but it's fine.
I think that Die Hard movie is better than the third one. I do.
Ooh, maybe we have to do like a face-off for that. I'll need to rewatch both and check them.
Here's what I will say. Like Samuel Jackson is way cooler than any part of that 4th Die Hard movie, but that movie's plot is terrible and makes no sense. And there's like,
yeah, that's true.
There's unforgivably stupid moments. Like when they have to like defuse this bomb by doing water and they do it wrong. Like because editing, they're like, this is taking too long. Let's cut out of the scene. They do the problem wrong. They say the right answer, but show the wrong thing.
Is that true?
Yes. It pisses me off every time.
I have to watch that and see. All right. So we'll table that for another time. But
anyway, launches a motorcycle, destroys everything. In the rubble, the governor is somehow still alive and he's lying there. And like Raju shows up and like pins him, like crucifies him to like a rubble with arrows. And then Beheem shows up with the rifle and Raju's like, load, click, aim. And the governor's like promising them the world and you know.
But they do the whole bullet thing. They say this bullet was, so show him the value of his bullet. Make sure he always keeps that value close to his heart.
Load, aim, shoot, pow. And it is
blows that motherfucker away.
One of the most satisfying villain endings ever to be put in a movie.
And the blood splatters across a flag that has the crown on it. It says something like, like the British crown will never fall or some shit like that. And his blood splatters across it.
So then they all go home and then there's a huge dance number. Just massive fucking dance number. Every person in the cast and a million.
Including the director.
And they're showing all these revolutionary heroes.
Yeah.
Now, this is where, once again, my idiot white man is showing full force, like I'm wearing a kilt and just blowing in the wind. I don't know anything about Indian revolutionaries or what this movie is promoting. And I've read some things that where like people are like, wait, Gandhi wasn't there. And they're like, yeah, that movie is specifically on a fuck Gandhi mode. And I'm like, what? I don't know the politics of like revolutionary India or like what this movie could be saying. And I'm not going to pretend I know, but it was a noticeable omission to some, and then realize that there's like a deeper political meaning to what this movie is pro for and what it's against. And I'm like, huh. Very rarely have I been exposed to a, yeah, fuck Gandhi message, but all right, I guess
that's actually the next one. R2, fuck Gandhi.
I don't know. Again, I don't know if that's actually the message.
He's actually the big bad in the second one. Gandhi's the big bad.
and look, I don't know the bigger political like attitude towards Gandhi. I'm not even going to pretend. But like when researching this movie, some people were like, "Oh yeah, that's a thing," and it's like, huh. And it's just like, it suddenly was like, I should do more research as a human being. And I was like, nah, I got a podcast to do. I'm going to do half-ass research.
I got to watch Critters 3.
And I'm going to talk about it like I know what I'm talking about. I don't know what I'm talking about, but this is something I came across. If you do know what you're talking about, maybe you should hit us up.
I read a little bit.
Yeah.
These two guys were real revolutionaries, Beam and Raj. They were real historical figures that really did do revolutions, and their life paths were very similar, apparently.
But never met.
Like they never met. Correct. They never met. They were never at the same spot. None of the movie actually happened, I guess. I don't know how much of each character's past was fictionalized, but
they never.
No, I actually read that. I read that Rajamouli was he kind of got part of the idea for the inspiration, I guess, for this type of movie from Inglourious Bastards, because you watch Inglourious Bastards and then towards the end Hitler gets killed and you're suddenly like, wait a minute, this is like an alt version of history. This is not actual World War II. And the thing that I read said that when he saw that, he was like, oh, you could make a historical movie that is just not true. There's no reason you can't make a fictionalized historical movie, which is kind of cool as a concept, right? Rumi doesn't like it.
I don't know how I feel about any of that. Because look, again,
I love it.
Don't
tell me it's true. Don't tell me this is what really happened, bro. And then show Hitler getting shot.
Look, again, because
no, you don't like that?
Because I don't know the history of this story. I'm like, yeah, this seems fine. But like, no, I hated them killing Hitler. I thought that was terrible. That was such a stupid fucking thing.
Well, I didn't like that movie, but that wasn't what
I hate Inglourious Bastards. I know. At me. Come on, bring it. That movie's horribly edited, and
I feel the same way.
The hubris,
but not because of the.
And then fucking, but again, in fucking Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, like Sharon Tate not getting murdered by the Manson family, like that's even worse because people know that Hitler didn't get murdered in a movie theater. People don't have a foot, like, unless you like study a bunch of murder mystery shit.
Like, not more people know about Hitler than about Sharon Tate.
About Sharon Tate and Charles Manson. So some people are like, oh, I guess they saved her. It's like, no, again, the arrogance to think that you can save it by making this movie. Like that I don't know. That one, kill Hitler all you want.
He's all riled up, guys. If you're watching the YouTube, you could see he's upset.
You can kill Hitler all you want. The Sharon Tate thing just seemed even more irresponsible and stupid to me. I don't know. Whatever. Fine. Do what you want. Make movies how you want. I don't care.
You could kill Hitler, but don't save Sharon Tate.
I don't know. It just
okay.
Anytime you do historical bullshit, like it's not Forrest Gump. Here's the thing. Forrest Gump is inserted into all these historical things, right? But he doesn't change the outcome of history. And if you're a movie and you're trying to portray history and then you change the outcome, there's something really arrogant and potentially irresponsible. I don't know if any of these movies cross that line, but you danced on its grave pretty hard. So that's what I'm saying.
Oh, I don't mind because I feel like movies are art, right? It's entertainment is art. So if you say you can't do this or this or this because it's not or really happened, it's kind of like censoring that or telling an artist what they are or are not allowed or are not allowed to do. And I feel like you should be able, you want to make a painting about fucking this king, but you want to make him green. All right, man, it's your painting. Do what you want. You shouldn't tell people, man, this is really what he looked like for sure. Because like you said, then it starts disinformation. Well, but I feel like
there's the two points to that. Because you're right. You are right. Nobody, you should be able to do art however you want. But the disinformation, people are too fucking stupid to not believe that king was green. I don't believe I do not believe
that's probably true.
So because of that, I think there is a level of responsibility that I'm not saying that Inglourious Bastards are broke that responsibility or didn't do that. Again, like I said, you danced on the line, and if you're into it, fine. That's not for me. Again, history, if you're dealing with real history, there is potentially a responsibility there that I think people should be aware of. Do with that what you want. That's up to you to decide, you know? But if it's real history, I think you have a responsibility to be considerate of it. Whether that means you get to paint that king green or not, that's up to you. And maybe that's what your art is saying, bro. Like, whoa. Like,
can you please call it our art, please?
Our art. Like, maybe that's what your art is supposed to say. And like, again, I don't know if it's irresponsible to have these two figures meet each other. Who gives a shit? You know, maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe he.
I want Sharon Tate dead, but I don't care about these Indian guys meeting each other or not.
Again, my white guy killed is blowing in the wind. Everybody can see what I got going on. I don't know. I'm just saying. That's how I feel. You can do how you want. But I agree with you that you know, people should do what they want and let people decide. But you can also expect me to be like, that was irresponsible to kill Hitler. I don't like that. I don't like that. Hey, we're all allowed to feel.
Well, that's the movie, right? We talked about the whole movie.
Fucking movie.
I think we hit the high five. What's your biggest high five moment?
Oh shit. That's rough, dude. That's hard. For me, the biggest high five moment is when they save the kid and they're swinging around the bridge, because that was like,
what moment do you turn? Like, if me and you're in the theater, what moment do you turn to me for the high five there?
When they jump and it hits the slow-mo. And I'm like, yeah.
Oh, yeah? Before the plan even unfolds?
Yes, because the second they're jumping in the air, you know, I just know that it's going to end awesome.
Some shit is going down. Yeah.
Like that's when I'm putting my hand up. Oh, and then like when they do it, I'm like, ja! And then it's like, oh, you just blew your high five, bro. Put it up again. And I'm like, oh yeah, put it up again. When he comes through the fire and they're like going underwater, like that might be a 2 or 3 high five moment. That movie was like, they're going to high five too early.
There's a lot.
Let's set them up again for some more high fives. And it knew. Second high five moment is probably during the piggyback scene.
For sure.
That's one where I was like, fuck yeah.
That's one that I know we turn to each other at the same time.
Yes. Yeah. What about you? What's your... Is it really when the drum roll goes off and you go, is that a high five moment?
No, because the drum part was my favorite, but I don't think it's a high five. I might look to you for a high five, but I don't think so. I just lost it then because I was like, this motherfucker he's like, that is when you have a buddy's back. When you take over the drums at someone else's fucking wedding or whatever, just to show up some stupid English asshole. I mean, that was just so fucking baller. But I don't think that was a high five. I think the biggest, like the strongest high five. The beginning scene is pretty good too. When he takes on those 100 guys with the baton. I think the biggest high five is definitely the fire fish kid scene for sure. I don't know at what point. Awesome. Like if you were sitting with your hands on your knees and it was up to me to initiate, I don't know at what point I'm doing it. I think it might be when they're going in for the you son of a bitch handshake. That might be it. Or maybe through the fire with the wet flag.
Because that's fucking cool.
There's no wrong point. There's no wrong point, you know?
I mean, we could just throw our hands up and just hold hands in a high five stance and just
well, you know what? We
sit there holding hands.
Say it. That happens about 45 minutes or so 45, 48 minutes into the movie. And that is where the actual title card comes in, because we've seen the 3 R's, but it's there where you see RRR and you're like, this is the movie that you're watching. It's 45 minutes in. Maybe that's it. Maybe when that title happens, because then you're like, oh shit, we haven't even really started yet.
I know, right? It's absolutely bonkers. It's ridiculous. I like this movie a lot. Everybody should check it out. It's very, very, very fucking good. If you have 3 hours, I think it needs at least an hour taken out of it, but I don't know where you would do that.
No, I don't agree with that. I think the last act, I don't know if you could say it has 3 acts, but I guess it does, but the last act, it feels a little long, and it's a little bit of like kind of rehash stuff, but just instead of this guy saving this guy or this guy knowing something about this guy, the roles are switched. So even though it's different, it feels like a retread a little bit. Well, and I think you can kind of you could push it a little faster at that point. The pace could be faster, but I'm not going to complain. I wouldn't change it. I like everything.
Because like you get to the whole scene where you find out like Raju's dad dying and all that, and that has so much slow mo in it. And I'm like, I get it. His dad's gonna be dead. I get it. Like the second that scene starts happening, you're like, oh, that sucks, man. His life, he really has been carrying a heavy weight. Okay, move on. And they're like, here's 20 minutes of this scene, and you're like, oh, I mean, it's cool. It's really heavy and it's devastating and it's important. But
in that last forest fight, Beam throws a guy that Raju shoots with an arrow. Yeah. And as his body flies past Raju pulls the arrow back out of him and shoots it at another guy. That might be a high five. I mean, I think I would high five there. I don't know if it's the biggest one, but that exact moment of that fight was pretty fucking cool.
That fight scene had several high fives. There's definitely a high five when the motorcycle on fire is flying through the air. My hand's going up there.
The old school Ghost Rider cycle.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Bad, man.
I feel like we should make a commentary track, like a visual commentary track of just our high fives of that movie. So just me and you, like you could watch us from behind, like over the shoulder in the bottom, like Mystery Science Theater, but just for high fives.
Just for high fives. It's like the old, like put on your 3D glasses, kids. It's like, you're ready for high fives. Get your hands ready, kids.
Get your hands up.
It's like ding, 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 ding. High five incoming. Holy shit. Guys, what was your favorite moment of RRR? Would you have any high five moments?
Why do you make it sound like a seal?
Because it just RRR doesn't sound as good as the pirate version. RRR.
Oh, you're doing a pirate?
I'm doing it like a pirate seal. It's a seal with an eye patch.
I guess you could call it Seal Blackbeard because he has little whiskers, right? Seal's got little whiskers on him.
Yeah. He's got an eye patch. One-eyed Sealy is what they call him. Yeah, and he's the mascot of this movie. RRR. RRR. Oh, maybe
how would you say it with different acts with the accent on different letters? RRR. 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 Or just none. RRR. Oh no, because that had some. RRR.
RRR. A lot to think about there.
RRR. RRR.
Get your hands ready for a slap.
If we were smart, we would have talked before this episode and decided that we would each pronounce the title differently. And just the whole time. Yeah, my favorite part of RRR was and not comment on it and just see if any of the listeners picked up on it. It was like, Rumi, why are you calling it RRR? And Rumi, you're calling it RRR.
I mean, it fucking won an Oscar, so it's a good movie, right?
For sure. That's the only way. It's got the Will Smith slap of approval right on there.
Oh Oh my God. Rumi, let's blast this off. Oh, we had a really like complicated dance number that we have been rehearsing to music, but we're running out of time. It's going too long. So
if I had suspenders, I was going to ask you if you wanted to do it in costume. I don't have any, but if I did, also that adds to the sexiness. Suspenders. I'm going to say, as a straight white man who's never sexually thought about another man before, for sure, that's like part of the hotness for me. I think if those dudes wearing suspenders, yeah, I thought it was hot. I don't know why.
Yeah. Movie was an awakening for many. Guys, did RRR make you gay? Tell us in the comments below.
A little. I mean, a little. Not sexually, but
I mean that mustache.
I've never wanted two guys to end up together so hard before.
Right? I'm just saying.
Like that's roomies for life right there.
Dude, yeah. They deserve each other. It was so beautiful. It was beautiful. It's a beautiful movie.
I'd listen to their podcast.
Yeah, me too. But every episode's like 3.5 hours long, and who's got time for that shit? Oh, Rumi, let's blast this thing.
Welcome
off.
to our RR.
Nacho, 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 nacho. Woo-hoo. So fucking good. Anyway, we've been the Rocketeers, and we are out.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.